Hello, welcome to my notes, a section under the iExplore channel. These notes explain how to empty or remove the fuel or gas from the fuel tank. This procedure will work on a Mustang 1996 V6 3.8-liter engine. It should also work on any Mustang from 1996 to 1998 of the same engine. Note: you may also be able to find these notes as a guide and adjust them to your needs. After completing this task, I learned that some fuel tanks contain a drain plug, so check before applying this method. I also tried a suction device. It did not work. The fuel tank seems to have protection against that type of device.
If you would like to see the animated version of this logo, please view the link in the description below.
This is how I did it.
There is a safety note associated with this video. Please view the link in the description below.
Number 1. The fuel relay is located in the CCRM module, which is located in between the fender and the frame structure of the engine bay. In order to access this unit, you will need to take the tire and the wheel well plastic cover off, or access the CCRM unit from the engine. For me, it was best to use the two access points located in the engine bay. One access point is located here, which is the largest. The second access point is located here, and is much smaller. You will need to remove the air filter assembly. Once removed, the access points will look like this. The second access point will look like this. And this is the smaller access point, and notice how it has very little space for you to work in, which makes it a little bit difficult. But it is possible to work from this small area. The CCRM has the harness connection on this side with a bolt in here. For this example, this will take the place of the CCRM, where you have the unit and you have the connection. Then you have a plastic bracket that goes on top. It has a clip on this side. The bracket goes on top, and then you have the bolt that goes on top of the bracket and holds everything together. You will need to loosen up this bolt. So once we have detached the harness from the unit, you will have successfully accessed the fuel pump wiring. Further on in the video, I will explain the color coding for the wire. The way I went about doing this is, I stood here. One hand can reach through this side, and you can help manipulate the harness through this side. Number 2. Getting our fuel lines are ready. We will need to plug the return fuel line, which is located here. This tube here is going to represent the return fuel line on the engine, the one that's attached to the engine. Now this return fuel line needs to be plugged in. It's connected with the return line that goes all the way in underneath. So when you detach this, you need to plug this line from the side of the engine. And remember, this is metal and it's chrome. And the easiest way to plug it in, at the time I've done this procedure before, I just went over to the junkyard and found a vehicle of the same type, and I cut this piece. What I did is I plugged in the bottom here with it. But I've also tried it without this. See, if you don't have this, you will need to plug this in. It sounds easy, but because it's metal, you can't really use, like, for example, like a pencil like this, because it's chrome and it's not gonna you don't want to damage anything or twist anything, particularly on the fuel line, where this is like precisely goes in there. It can be done with, what I did is I grabbed a glove, cut it, and then I put any material like paper. So the plastic and the paper put it inside, then the glove on top, and I grabbed, I believe it was a rubber band, and threw the rubber band around, and that created pressure around, not dramatic pressure. A tie would also work. And that I'll show pictures on the actual engine where this return fuel line is. We will also need to remove the inside section of the shredder valve, which is located here. In order to remove the inside section of the valve, you will need small needle nose pliers or a dedicated tool to do this. You will find the links to each of those tools, if you need them, in the description below. Once the inside section of the valve has been removed, you are ready to insert the hose into the valve. This is where your fuel will be coming out from. So basically the hose has to be long enough to maybe reach around the fender towards the wheel on the outside, and then have a bucket. Any hose will work. I used an older type hose, and I'll put a picture on here to see the type of hose that I used, but any hose will work. Even if it's larger, you can place tape around the valve and then make the hose fit on there. Just make sure that it doesn't leak, and then you should be good. From this point on, we'll go on to talking about the wiring and how to make the connections in order to make the fuel pump work. Number 3. For our wiring connection, we'll need to look at a wiring diagram. This diagram shows the exact wiring from a schematic or a blueprint. The fuel pump fuse is always feeding 12 volts onto the wire, which is pin 11 on the blueprint. The relay is only activated via the computer. This is why we need to jump or feed 12 volts into pin number 5 in order to activate the fuel pump. On the CCRM harness, it will be the 4th pin from the left to the right. The wire that we need has a code of dark green with a yellow line. You can backproof the wire. For me, it was best to use alligator clips. Next, I will draw the connections. After that, I will mention details that are of interest for this project. I removed the computer fuse. I also removed the fuel pump fuse, and we'll go ahead and set the fuel pump fuse over on the side here. I placed a pin here and the jumper cables from the pin over to one side of the fuse, and from the harness side on number 5 pin a jumper wire, and from here to here. I then placed the switch. One lead from the switch is connected to the other side of the fuse, and the other lead is connected over to the jumper cable that goes over to the number 5 pin. So now we have a connection. So every time you turn the switch on, power will flow over and into the fuel pump wiring, powering the fuel pump. At this point in time, fuel will flow through the tubing that you prepared on those fuel lines. This is a diagram of the fuse box, and these are the fuses that I pulled.